Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets, presented by So Rare, right here live on our FTN Network YouTube page, also on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. Hopefully, everybody had a fantastic weekend, a fun-filled weekend, especially in the college world, college football. Lamar Jackson's on my mind. We'll get to him in a second. College basketball, of course, the Final Four is intact. We'll get to that and the odds in a second. We're going to have our guy, Mike Randall, join us later on in the week. I mean, is there anybody hotter than Randall at the moment when it comes to sports picks? Certainly college basketball. He went perfect over the weekend, and I think he went 10 for 12 over the Elite Eight, all the games included now into the Final Four. The guy's just been absolutely fantastic, and Florida Atlantic continues their run. FAU, we are banging FAU here on Mean Streets, and I've already locked down one of my brackets thanks to Randall having FAU in the Final Four. He's been hot fire when it comes to the college basketball picks. That and a little bit, plus the college hockey. That's right, college hockey over the weekend as well. A lot to get to here on this show. We're just days away from opening day in Major League Baseball. On Friday, we went over some of our favorite targets in sleepers, undervalued pitchers in fantasy baseball. If you missed that, we can bring up a board of a few players a little bit later on in the show, but I have the video over on our FTN Network YouTube page. Hop on over. If you have a draft tonight, draft Tuesday, Wednesday, you're drafting a little bit later on in the week. Got you covered with a few fantasy baseball targets. So the video is over on our FTN Network YouTube page. And today, going to take a look at some hitters, also dive deeper into NFBC high stakes leagues as well. We were taking a look at rounds 13 and 14. So we're getting pretty deep. We're flirting with like pick 180-ish and above, getting close to the 200 mark as well. I did a couple drafts over the weekend, fantasy baseball drafts, on Yahoo and CBS, some of their platforms. And some players are certainly really, really buried down the list, like Reed Detmers. Reed Detmers I have ranked as a top 40 pitcher. Maybe that's aggressive. Probably is. His ADP in like high stakes leagues is roughly 160, 165 over the last couple of weeks. And Yahoo has him at like 250. 260. So there are certainly some players, if you're over a Yahoo user, there's certainly some players that we'll address on this show that I address as well from the pitching standpoint and the hitter standpoint. I will address a little bit later on. 6 games on the ice tonight in the NHL. 3 of the 6 games have a goal total of 7, so a lot of action. My article breaking down the DFS slate is over at ftndaily.com. We still have free trials over at ftndaily.com and ftnbets.com. 3-day trials on both of those websites. Sign up for free, see what we have to offer. Picks across all sports, projections, tools, and we have the Discord channel broken down into all sports as well. From a betting standpoint, I mean, Josh Gross continues to get a tennis cheat code, man. The guy is... it's like the Back to the Future, right? The almanac, he just has it. He has all the winners. I don't know how he does it, but he has all of the winners. MLB futures, NBA, right? We're just a couple weeks away from NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs happening as well. What the heck is going on with the Dallas Mavericks? How do you lose 2 of 3 to the Charlotte Hornets? Are you kidding me? Come on. And now Luka's not going to play tonight because he picked up his 16th tech yesterday. It's so bad. It's just so bad. And I know everybody said it. You bring in Kyrie and you're going to have some issues on the floor, off the floor. I heard Luka talk about, not having fun at the moment, and it's not just all on the floor basketball, but it's also Luka. I don't want to put too much on him, but you're down 4 points with a minute left. Dude just like pulls up from half basically to take a 3. There's a lot going on in Dallas, and 2 must-win games against Charlotte, and they lose them both. The Hornets are pathetic. So what does it say about the Mavs? And now they're on the outside looking in. They're not even part of the 4. And when it comes to the play-in teams, and they had the easiest schedule remaining 3 weeks ago, and now it just doesn't look good. They're actually favored to beat the Pacers tonight. I don't like them to beat Indiana. They just they're free falling at the moment. They look absolutely finished. But we will save the NBA talk for another day. But the FTN Bets package, you get all the picks, like I mentioned, across all the sports projections tools, Discord channel, all that for you as well. A lot happening, draft props, futures already from myself anyways in the tracker. I talked about the Kings, the LA Kings this morning. We had, I think it was from June 29th, the Kings to win the Stanley Cup at 45-1. I tweeted this morning that PointsBet had still had a good price, I think 34-1. And I just saw somebody reply and said, that's gone. It's 20-1. I think DK has 16-1. I do believe now is the time. This is a team that I liked heading into the offseason. I mean, I liked them last year with the addition of Philip Deneau and Ajay Kopitar, they're deep down the middle. They got a lot of kids and prospects, right, that I thought would take the jump that really haven't. We've seen Byfield in the lineup now for the past couple months, but he hasn't been spectacular. I really like the addition of Kevin Fiala. They're a team that plays really good 5-5. In fact, over the last 2 months, since February 1st, they've allowed the fewest shot attempts at 5-5 per 60 shots, and they're inside the top 5 in shot attempts. I'm a little still skeptical about their goaltending. I don't love what they have going on in net, and their defense maybe a little bit shady, but they do have 4 strong lines, certainly 3 strong lines that play great at 5-5, and it really is about the middle of the ice for me. Kopitar is a strong two-way player. Deneau is a strong two-way player. They may get the Oilers in the first round. They could get the Golden Knights. Those are teams that I think that they could beat, and really like the direction of the LA Kings. There are 3 futures we have in the tracker, 2 from before the start of the season, the New York Rangers and the LA Kings. I think the Rangers are like 10-1 now. I believe we got 18-1. Still like the number at 10-1, but it's going to be a bloodbath in the Eastern Conference. It's going to be really tough to get out of the East. A lot of good teams. The West is certainly wide open as well. I think maybe an easier path for some teams in the Western Conference. That's why we jumped on the Dallas Stars about 3 weeks ago as well. I really do like their squad. Bringing in Max Domi, bringing in Evgeny Dadonov, right, Daddy, changing his name from Dadonov to Dadonov, back to Dadonov to Dadonov. This is call him E-Daddy on the show. We certainly do over at Dangle Batselli. I really like the direction of the Stars as well. I may get involved with one more team when we get the matchups, but don't sleep on the Kings. I know everybody loves the Oilers and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I get it, but they don't have great goaltending. And those 2 teams played each other in the first round last year, and it went 7. So the addition of Fiala, who returned to the lineup last night, Victor Arvidsson's been really good. He had a fantastic night last night as well. Don't sleep on the Kings. The Los Angeles Kings could make some noise, and that number is going to go away here soon. Obviously, the 34-1 is moved to 20-1 at PointsBet. We use our prop shop to get the best possible odds. So a lot to get to here. Let's bring up quickly before we break the NCAA Final Four, the teams with the odds. And again, no love here to Florida Atlantic. No love. Plus 650. If you've been watching the show, I mean, you may have them in your Final Four, which would be the difference for your bracket. Are you kidding me? This time last year in the Final Four, what did we have? Nova, UNC, Kansas. No 1 seeds got past the Elite 8. And this is, I think, the first time for San Diego State and Miami. UConn has been down this road before. They're favored here. To me, they've been the most impressive team in the tournament. I showed it to our guy, Walt, who had UConn going the distance. He had them actually going to the Final Four. I do believe he liked maybe Texas, but UConn has been very, very impressive. They've been just smoking absolutely everybody. San Diego State and the defense has been fantastic. Miami with that big come from behind victory. Texas was up, 13-14 yesterday, and Miami comes back as well. Daily Handle in the house. What's going on, sir? Owls, baby. PTP. Good value for Miami here if you're going to bet anyone. I do agree there is good value there, but why not ride this out with Florida Atlantic at plus 650, right? This is not really a surprise. If you've been watching the show, you've been following Randall as one of his favorite teams heading into the tournament. He liked them a lot, checked a lot of boxes for them, and FAU has been fantastic. So I think really good value there as well. I do believe UConn will take it down, but what's the good of that? And come in here and give you a minus 125 play. The Frozen Four as well. Minnesota favorite at plus 155. Watched Michigan yesterday squeak by against Penn State in overtime. Adam Pintali, how about him, right? I know everybody wants Connor Bedard, and he's going to be the first overall pick. And if you get the first overall pick, you got yourself a franchise player. But Fantilli's been really, really good as well. The freshman player of the year, led the nation in points for Michigan at plus 250. I really like them as well. And then Boston University in there at plus 390. Shout out Lane Hudson. But I really like what Michigan has to offer. It should be fun. The Frozen Four gets underway Thursday, April 6th. We are actually going to break. There is breaking news before we got on that I was going to get to in the opening block. We're going to save it for the next block. There's a big name quarterback that just requested a trade. Who could it be? We'll talk about it next here on Mean Streets, presented by So Rare. Back in a couple. lots happening here. In the break, I think in my head, I was like, did I pronounce it Adam Fintali? Did I pronounce that wrong? Like, what am I doing over here? It was just in my head. Maybe I didn't. Fantilli, Adam Fantilli, fantastic player. Of course, if you're watching the World Juniors, Team Canada in Halifax, he was remarkable. Again, all eyes on Connor Bedard, and Bedard's going to be the number 1 overall pick, and he's just lighting up the world, man. He is just what a player. He really is going to be a fantastic player, but Fantilli is going to go 2nd overall. He's got the body type, man, the 6'3", 210, 215. He's got a heavy shot, rare power forward. I actually lied about his weight. Yeah, he's 198. 198. Some spots actually have him at like 205. Quan says he lost connection to the Wi-Fi. We're going to continue to go strong here. I still think we're rocking here on a Monday Blues. I could hardly get out of bed this morning. Played a lot of hockey, like 6 games of hockey over the weekend. Whew, man, I'm getting old. I am getting old. I could have used a hot tub last night. Not a big hot tub guy. I don't know if anybody else is there. Big hot tub. I don't know. It's like, just kind of seems a little weird sometimes, just being that hot water and your filth and other people are in there. But man, it was really fun in the wintertime when it's chilly, it's cold. You go out there, it's snowing, you get a little glass of vino, but it really does relax the muscles in the body. So certainly could have used one last night. Yeah. Fantilli, 74 points in 54 games last year with Chicago Steel. This year, Big Ten, as I mentioned, led the nation. 35 games, 29 goals, 64 points. He had the game time goal last night. Michigan won it in overtime. Quan is kicked out, but we're going to continue to roll here on the show. I think we're okay. We do have some NFL win totals. I don't know if he's going to be able to bring them up or not, but I do want to mention Lamar Jackson here off the top because he is the quarterback that requested a trade via Twitter. I'm going to read off what he tweeted here just an hour ago as we're going live on our FTN Network YouTube page. Every day at noon Eastern, if you want to hang out in the chat. A letter to my fans. I want to first thank you all for the love and support you consistently show towards me. All of you are amazing, and I appreciate you all so much. I want you all to know not to believe everything you read about me. Let me personally answer your questions. And then he goes on here. This is hopefully it's not a massive thread here. It looks like a couple, 3 tweets here. Okay. In regards to my future plans as of March 2nd, I requested a trade from the Ravens organization for which the Ravens have not been interested in meeting my value. And everyone that's has met me or been around me know I love the game of football, and my dream is to help a team win the Super Bowl. You all are great, but I had to make a business decision that was best for my family and I. No matter how far I go or where my career takes me, I'll continue to be close to my fans of Baltimore Flock Nation and the entire state of Maryland. You'll see me again. Truths. Let's stay connected. Subscribe to my fan page right there from Lamar Jackson. Do we have George in here yet? Is George hanging around? Give me a bats if you are. We do have some NFL win totals I wanted to go over with some of you guys. So maybe not. Lamar Jackson, like, where could he go? I've just been so build your own hot tub in the ski lodge like Kramer. And I always Seinfeld never gets old. It's always great, right? And I put it on, do some work in the evening, put on Seinfeld episode, and always get a laugh, even though I've watched every episode like a million times. So it looks like George maybe not around. So we'll see what happens when we get some boards up. George, it's a hard work at all these boards. I want to show you guys some of them. But Lamar Jackson, where could this guy go? Let's see. Let's think, because there still are some teams out there that need a quarterback. Of course, the quarterback this draft, we're going to see 4 in the top 10. We could see 4 in the top 5. I mean, the Panthers moved up and traded for 1. I think they're going to take CJ Stroud. You have the Texans, a lot of talk about Bryce Young maybe falling down a couple picks. I still believe that D'Amico Ryan's former Bama boy is going to take a Bama boy in Bryce Young with pick 2. Then we have a team like Arizona, who I do believe will be the worst team in football this year. Kyler's not going to be ready to go at the start of the season. They've shipped off a lot of their pieces. George is in the house. Bats. Oh, baby. Welcome in. So we could see the Raiders. We could also see the Colts at 4 take a quarterback. Here's the win totals, which is great. You can leave that up if you want. Actually, I'll get into that in just a second, George. I was just going to talk through Lamar actually like gives me a little bit of it gives me a good feel. You want to chuck it up just for like teams, actually, like off the top of my head with Lamar breaking this news. So Chiefs, Bengals, 49ers, Eagles, Bills, Jags, Chargers, Dolphins. I'd say like all those teams are fine at the quarterback position. And I start thinking about maybe the Dolphins. Daily Handle says Miami or the Jets, right? The Dolphins are really interesting. They're committed to Tua, but Tua's had so many injuries. I really would love that spot for Lamar Jackson. Talk about speed, at the play calling with McDaniel and what he can do. And we saw it firsthand as a play caller. He's been linked to Shanahan, and in his first year, there were some rookie, curves that he needed to get over. We really saw it into the playoffs against the Bills, but Lamar Jackson in Miami under center with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Whew, my goodness. That would be great. Atlanta comes to mind for sure. The Washington Commanders, what are you guys doing in Washington? You've had 19 different quarterbacks, basically. I think the actual number is 16 different quarterbacks since Kirk Cousins left. 16. And when Jacoby Brissett gets under center and throws a pass, it'll be like 17 or 18. So they've had a lot of different quarterbacks. I don't believe that Sam Howell is the answer. They've moved on from Carson Wentz. They moved on from some of the veterans that they've had over the past couple of years trying to fill the void. I think Taylor Heineke, I think he's gone somewhere else now as a backup, maybe Tampa. But, Washington, the Jets, what are you doing here with Aaron Rodgers? The asking price is probably really, really significant. Daily Handles isn't listing off every team in the NFL. I think the Packers are fine. I don't think that they're going to do Lamar. I think they got Jordan Love, and they're going to see what they have in Jordan Love. But the Jets, right? The Jets, you have Aaron Rodgers, which you want. I just love that he keeps throwing out all these teams. Aaron Rodgers that they want, going to be expensive to get. What's the window for Aaron Rodgers? He's coming off his worst season ever in the NFL. He didn't look good, man. He did not look good at all. Throwing picks left, right, and center. I don't believe that the Jets are win now. Their defense is good. They still have a lot of young pieces on their squad. I would think for me, if I was a Jets fan, I would rather have Lamar Jackson, 26-year-old former MVP. You have a larger window with Lamar Jackson under center as opposed to Aaron Rodgers. It's a loaded AFC conference. Just because you get Aaron Rodgers doesn't mean that you're going to be able to compete. I would still give the benefit of the doubt to the Bengals, to the Bills, to the Chiefs as better squads than the Jets. Miami's inside the division as well. Bring up that win total one more time for me, George. Look at all these teams up at the top. AFC, Chiefs, AFC 11.5. Bengals, AFC 11.5. Bills, Jaguars, 10.5. AFC, Chargers, Dolphins, Jets, Browns, all 9.5. And then you have the Ravens, who this will drop down with no Lamar. See what happens there. The Broncos 8.5, the Steelers 8.5. There's like a lot of all out of the top 15 teams, a majority of them are in the AFC. Over in the NFC, you have the 49ers at 11.5, the Eagles at 10.5. George, can you bring that up one more time? Sorry, dude. Eagles at 10.5 and the Niners at 11.5. And then you have, you got to scroll down like AFC. You got the boys at 9.5. You got the Lions and the Saints at 9.5, the Vikings and the Giants and the Seahawks at 8.5. And then you get into some other teams like the Rams and the Bears and the Commanders, the Packers, the Falcons at 7.5, as well as the Panthers. I do believe, so I would going to go back to that board in a second. George, you can take it away. I'm just going to share some of my favorite win totals in a second. From that board. Still fairly early, right? I mean, the NFL does it backwards. It's not like other sports, right? Usually it's draft then free agency. You sign some players that you didn't get in the draft. The same thing in the NBA. And then in the NFL, it's like, okay, free agency, guys getting cut, you sign players, and then you do the draft. Super strange. But anyways, I think for me, top 5, I'm going to do it from like a fantasy standpoint. I think Miami would be 1 for me. I think Atlanta would be 2. Right? Miami with those weapons that I mentioned, and then Atlanta with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Really like what Atlanta's got going on. Yeah, big fan of the process. That still a lot of holes defensively, and they wouldn't be a Super Bowl contending squad. But I do like that scenario. I actually like Washington as a scenario as well. I'll put the Jets ahead of Washington because I am a big fan of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, and the line has improved and the defense is good. But from a fantasy standpoint, I think in the top 3, I think Washington for me would be in the top 5 as well. I'm a big Jahan Dotson fan. I think he's a really good wide receiver. I think he's going to be a great wide receiver in the NFL this season. He just limited role last year because he missed some time, but the touchdowns are certainly unsustainable, but he was a touchdown machine last year. I think he's fantastic. Mixed in with Terry McLaurin. I like that scenario as well. And then, Tennessee is not exciting. Houston's not exciting. Detroit, I'd put Detroit in like a top 5, but I do believe it's unrealistic. I don't think that Detroit will be super aggressive. I could see them maybe trading up and getting a guy like maybe Anthony Richardson to play behind Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff showed us last year the splits were for real. He was really good inside a dome and not so much outside, but Goff was great. Detroit had a really nice season. They beat the Packers at the end of the season when Detroit was already eliminated, and it was a big game at Lambeau, and the Lions made it work. And, they got some nice weapons there. Amon-Ra St. Brown is really strong for a wide receiver. And also Jameson Williams, right? Just in a small sample size last year, was able to blow the top off the defense, and he's electric. So I would say Miami, Atlanta, Washington. Miami, rank them in order of fantasy. Miami, Atlanta, Jets, Detroit, Washington in those top 5. Tampa's not going to do it. I can't see Tampa, getting aggressive and going that route. I don't think the Texans are going to trade out of the 2 spot and go that route as well. I don't believe the Titans are a team either. So let's see what happens here with Lamar. It's like super weird that there isn't. I know it's tough to pay him, and Deshaun Watson got all that guaranteed money and kind of ruined it for others, other teams anyways, not wanting to pay that money. But if I'm Lamar, I'm like, listen, I mean, Deshaun Watson getting that money. I want that money as well. I got an MVP. I'm 26 years old. I'm setting all these rushing records, but to pay that kind of money for a guy who has had a couple shortened seasons, how long will he last? His style, how long will that last in the NFL? It remains to be seen, right? He's a significant injury last year. I'm sure he could have played through a little bit of that, but he was thinking about his contract in the future. So we'll see what happens there. I'd say out of those teams, I don't know how realistic the lines are, but it would be a fun environment. So let's bring up that NFL win total here just for a second and kind of roll through some of my thoughts that I do have. And I'm just trying to find a tweet here in a second that I had with the schedule of the Saints, because the biggest pushback, I tweeted this over the weekend. This is from DraftKings. They just released. I don't know if other books have their win totals out just yet. It is fairly early. And the biggest pushback I got were like, whoa, the Saints at 9.5, easy under. Well, let's remind everybody the division that they play in, the NFC South, the Panthers. Yeah, they've signed some players here, and Adam Thielen and Miles Sanders, and they're going to get themselves a number 1 quarterback. How ready is CJ Stroud? If it is Stroud, how ready is he going to be? There's a lot of holes in this Panthers team. They're going to get the Falcons twice. They're going to get the Bucks twice. They're going to get the Panthers twice. They got a matchup against the Bears. The Lions and the Jaguars are tough. They got winnable games against the Giants, the Titans, and the Bears at home, plus those 3 divisional opponents that they're going to get at home and then on the road. Nobody really goes 6-0. The Falcons are always going to give the Saints a run no matter what. Even, going back to the last 10 years, the teams have been, good. Really, like 6-7 years ago, both were good. But even this past year, both were just kind of mediocre. And they battle all the time. Division rivals, they always battle. So they won't go 6-0. Maybe they get 4 or 5 wins out of that division. I certainly think they could beat the Bears. I think they'll give the Lions and the Jags a go. I certainly think they could beat the Jags and the Giants. So what do we give them? 4? Let's give them 4 wins in the division. There's 7 potentially with the Bears. And then they have other Packers. Like, that's a winnable game against the Packers, especially if there's no Aaron Rodgers. They get the Texans. That's one that I expect them to win. Colts, I expect them to win that one. And then the Rams, Patriots, and Vikings, they'll hang with those teams. The Saints have had a top 10 defense last year. So whether you believe Derek Carr is an upgrade over Andy Dalton or Taysom Hill, he is. The offensive line is good. They've invested in over the past couple of years. Michael Thomas is a bit of a wild card for sure. I expect them to draft a wide receiver. Alvin Kamara, they bring in Jamal Williams. So they got a really good 1-2 punch out of the backfield. Chris Olave is a stud. And the defense, as I mentioned, is legit. Plus, not only is their schedule super soft, the NFC is absolutely super soft. We rattled it off when we looked at the win totals. You get the 49ers at 11.5, and then the Eagles at 10.5. Then what? Right? A couple 9.5s, 8.5s as well. So I'm not saying that over 9.5 is my favorite play, but for everybody saying that it's an easy under and they don't understand the Saints win total, again, top 10 defense, solid quarterback play, good 1-2 punch into the backfield, some weapons in offense, and the division stinks and the conference is weak. Let's bring up this one more time. I'll rapid fire through some other, and it's fairly early, but some will change. Chiefs over 11.5. Come on. We're doing this again, right? Kansas City's a 13, 14 win team. They just are, even as low as the AFC is. I would lean to the over 11.5. Bengals seem high. 49ers seem high. Eagles seem high as well. The schedule is going to be tougher this season for Philadelphia. It was a little bit, I know everybody talks about the Eagles' tough schedule, but they had the most wins in an NFL season against 9-win teams. So say what you want about the schedule being easy, but the Eagles were great last year. But expect maybe a little bit of regression. They're missing some guys defensively. They lost their offensive coordinator. They lost the defensive coordinator. So it's always tough for a team when you lose your OC and your DC in the same season. That's tough. So there should be some adjustments for Philly. As I mentioned, the tougher schedule. So I have a lean to the under on the 10.5. I still like them to win the division. Maybe they're a 10-win team. I do like the over on the Cowboys at 9.5 as well. I mean, they still got a really good offense. They brought in Brendan Cooks last week. They got a good defense. Dak missed some time last year, so there were some losses there on that schedule. I think that they're a 10-win team. So I'd have the lean to the under on the Eagles, the lean to the over on the Cowboys. The Jags just seem too high at 10.5, right? They broke out last season, but to ask, to be even better, 10.5 seems extremely high for me. So I have a slight lean to the under there. The Browns at 9.5. I don't know. I have a slight lean to the under. I see some people coming in with the over. Deshaun Watson, I wouldn't take too much from Deshaun Watson. What he did last year is his first football in like 2 years, but he didn't look all that great. But I do like the addition. I really like the trade of Elijah Moore, bringing him in. And as long as they have Nick Chubb healthy, that offensive line is strong. They could flirt with that number, but I have a slight lean to the under. You can't have all these teams in the AFC getting 10 wins. This is not going to happen, right? I mean, teams are going to beat up on each other. The Lions 9.5 seems fair, to be honest, but they do have expectations, and anytime they have expectations, it kind of falter. But this is an improved team, and they showed us last year. I do believe that they're going to win the division. In fact, they are favored to win the division. I think at plus 125, and I do like that pick at 9.5. I like the Vikings at over 8.5. They were 8.5 last year. And, their defense is going to be improved through the draft. They still have Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins. I'd like to see them go get on DeAndre Hopkins. Imagine that 1-2 punch, JJ and Hopkins. That'd be pretty solid. But I do like the over 8.5, and for the Seahawks over 8.5 as well. Wagner is back there. Geno was great last year. Top 5 fantasy quarterback, led the NFL completion percentage. And they got some nice players on defense as well. So I like the over 8.5. Easy under 8.5 if you can do the Ravens now. It may be off the board. What else do we have here? I could see the Bears over 7.5, but that number is pretty fair. The Falcons could flirt with over 7.5. I go to the under on 7.5 for the Packers, and the under on the Titans 7.5. I feel like they're in for a long season. And that's, the Cardinals 5.5. I think that they're going to be like a 3-win team. I think they're going to be atrocious this year. Gannon is going to have his hands full as a first-time head coach. I think that no Kyler to start. They're shipping off pieces here and there. One guy that I really like from a fantasy standpoint, you're doing best ball drafts right now, is Rondell Moore could be okay, but it's Hollywood, right? Hollywood was so good last year at the start of the season before DeAndre Hopkins got back in the lineup, and then we saw him get scaled back a little bit, but I think Hopkins is going to get traded, and then Hollywood becomes the one, and he's going to get a lot of volume and a lot of targets. Who's the quarterback? Baker? It's going to be a long year for Arizona Cardinal fans, and they should trade back, by the way. Trade back, let a team jump up, quarterback, maybe they draft, like leapfrog the Raiders, get who you want, get some pieces, because they need to rebuild. There's no question. Appreciate you, Daily Handle, naming all 32 teams in the NFL where Lamar Jackson could go. Just kidding. We'll break. We got some MLB talk here on Mean Streets. We'll be back in a couple.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Welcome back in. Mean Streets here, presented by So Rare. Let's take a look at round 13 NFBC high stakes leagues drafts over the last couple of weeks. Of course, we're just a handful of days away from opening day in Major League Baseball happening on Thursday. Jordan, you kill me, dude. I was just kidding with you. So round 13 here, Dustin May up at the top for the Dodgers. May is interesting. You know, the Dodgers, I think that they've, shipped off a couple players, and I like the under on their win total. And just for the Dodgers, I think that they're going to be all in on Shohei Ohtani. I really do think that Shohei Ohtani is going to be a guy that they're going to get. Tyler Glasnow in there, just some injury concerns with Glasnow. If he can get you 150 innings, he could possibly return value, but there's a little bit of risk with Glasnow staying healthy over the past couple of years. Rowdy Tellez, right? It's got some pop. Not a bad target, outside pick 150 here on average at 151. It's got some pop. You like the ballpark that he plays in. Kyle Wright's a really good pitcher. I think he's an underrated pitcher. He's got some nasty stuff and he had a really good season last year. How about Cal Raleigh? I really like him. I think, as I mentioned off the top of the show, if you're drafting on Yahoo, there's a couple catchers that are certainly buried down. I like the Contreras brothers. Those are certainly two targets for me. They go slightly earlier than I would like to pull the trigger on a catcher. I got a couple hitting players that you guys can get after, I'm going to show you in the next block, but Cal is certainly one of those guys for me. And just kind of looking over some numbers. I mean, last season was certainly a breakout campaign for him. 27 bombs for him. I do like the lineup in Seattle. It's a little bit underrated. When I think about the Mariners, I think about their staff. I think it's one of the better pitching staffs in the bigs, and I like their bullpen, and certainly like the over in the 87.5 win total. I think this is a team that can get to 90 again, but he may not hit 27 bombs, but he can certainly hit 20. I mean, our projections have him for over 20. Most Fangraphs projections have him for over 20. Steamer has him for 22. Zips has him for 24. The average is not going to be spectacular. If you get 220, that's fantastic. You love that really from your catcher position. But I think he's a top 12 catcher. I think he could be. I think he has upside to be a top 10 catcher. And if you're playing in two catcher leagues like NFBC formats, he goes a little bit earlier here, and that's why the ADP is slightly higher, around 150. But in Yahoo, he's going to be buried down the list. I took him in a couple of drafts over the weekend, outside round 15, and I was pretty happy with what I got. I agree with Jordan Allen here on Dustin May. I think he could be in for a pretty good season. He's got some decent stuff there, and there's some injuries inside the rotation right now. Gonsolin's going to miss some time to start the season with an ankle injury. We know Walker Buehler is recovering from Tommy John, and then Clayton Kershaw pitched last night in the freeway game between the Angels and the Dodgers. He looked fantastic, but Kershaw is a guy that he's had some injury issues, of course, throughout his career. Let's bring that board back up here, George, if you don't mind, just see some of the other names that are on it. So Brendan Lowe, I mean, he's got some pop, right? The second base position is super weak, especially with Jose Altuve going to miss the first 2 months of the season. Pretty weak. I really do like Drew Rasmussen. I think he's a pretty strong target. A really solid 1.91 walks per nine last season. Keeps the ball on the ground for the most part. Had a 2.84 ERA. His xFIP slightly higher at 3.56. But he does some good stuff. I think he can get up to about 160 innings, maybe 30 starts for you. He's not going to have a 9K per nine. Like, I don't usually have these guys on my radar that are not going to strike out. Like 125 strikeouts in 146 innings is not spectacular, but we are talking about, we're getting deeper here into the pitcher pool. But he's going to have some decent ratios for you. It's just, you're not going to get, I think he can get up to 8K per nine. Like his strikeout percentage last year was 21%. Can he get to 22, 23, 24? Maybe that's pushing it, the 24 mark, but I think he is a really decent pitcher to target in this range. And I like Ryan Mountcastle quite a bit. He's having a really good spring. He had 22 home runs last year. In his sophomore season, he had 33. So 55 homers in, his last 2 years. The average probably going to be around 260, 265. The strikeout rate jumped down from 27 to 25 from 2021 to 2022. Like the lineup, actually, I think Baltimore's lineup is pretty underrated, and they got some kids that are going to be in the lineup at some point this season. He's got some pop in his bat. I mean, the ISO is strong from 2 years ago, 232. This is a guy that I like quite a bit. The fly ball rate is high, 41%, 42% 2 seasons ago. I know that they the dimensions at Camden's a little bit different. It was good for pitchers, of course, last season, but still, I think it's still a pretty decent ballpark to hit in and a good division. So Mountcastle he's been a target of mine. I really like where he goes in drafts. As you see, first base position is not fantastic. I like the fact that he's hitting cleanup for the O's. What else do we have on that list? Ian Happ was another guy. Our guy, Matty Woodman, he loves Ian Happ. Ian Happ's on this list at pick 155 on average. All Matty's talked about over the 2-3 years that I've known him is Ian Happ. And I don't mind it, right? I mean, double-digit homers, 9 stolen bases in each of the last 2 years. They can get it to like 20 homers and 10 stolen bases. The average 271 last year, maybe an outlier. It was a career high mark for him last year. BABIP was also a career high for him, 336. But I think he can be a 250 hitter, a double-digit walk rate. Maybe a little bit more value in an on-base percentage league. Strikeouts, from 29% to 23% last year. I think the Cubbies are going to have a sneaky decent lineup this season. CS Suzuki is going to miss a little bit of time. He's a value. He's been going like round 20, 21, 22, in Yahoo leagues because of the injury. He's going to miss some time, but I think, it's okay. It's not a huge risk to take him on at that point. Dansby Swanson they brought in, Cody Bellinger they brought in. I think the Cubbies may have a sneaky underrated offensive lineup, and I think Ian Happ is a decent target, especially in rotisserie leagues. Is not a lot of guys that you can get double-digit stolen bases on that board from around pick 150. So a few players there. We're going to break and talk about round 14. Plus, I have some hitters for you, undervalued, and just some of my favorite targets. And we'll wrap up with a few NHL picks and props. A lot more to get to here on Mean Streets. Keep your lock. We'll continue here on Game Plus Network.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Welcome back in. Let's take a look at round 14. Same thing here. NFBC high stakes leagues, ADP from the last 2 weeks. People putting their hard-earned bucks. And right away, you see Suzuki there, right? When you're drafting on Yahoo and you see he's going to miss a little bit of time, it's like high stakes players are not worried about that. I mean, he has the upside to return value, even if he misses a little bit of time. You see Charlie Morton up at the top. Just going to rattle off some of the names for the iTunes and Spotify listeners. Charlie Morton at pick 159. I think this is terrific value. Honestly, it was tough for me to leave him off my starting pitching list, but I'll bring up that list again in the next block with the hitters. But this is a guy that He's just a workhorse over the past couple of years, 194 innings, 185, 172. And you take a look at some of the strikeouts. I mean, 205 last year, 216, 240 in 2019. This is a guy that is going to at least get 180 strikeouts. I think he can get up to 120. Most projections have him for like 160 innings. I think that's super, super conservative. I understand that he's 39 years old, but I wouldn't be shocked if he flirted with, 180 innings and 200 strikeouts again. So I do believe that he is a really good target. For where he was going in the draft. I think he's a strong target. Matt Chapman there for the Blue Jays, third base, he's got a little bit of pop there. The average is not going to be good. It's a great lineup, right? He's going to be hitting down the lineup in 6, 7 spot at times, probably 6. But Matt Chapman is a decent, I mean, his fielding is fantastic, right? That's not going to help you in fantasy, but he does have some pop and it's a really good lineup. Suzuki there, Pablo Lopez, Lars Nootbaar. We were saying before the break me off a piece of that Nootbaar for Lars. This is a guy that we talked about quite a bit last year. Nootbaar just sounds like a chocolate bar name, right? But last year, MLB picked some props around the diamond when my guy MLB Dream came on. I found myself always talking about Nootbaar. He was leading off, midway through the season. He took over the leadoff role for the Cardinals. He may not lead off every day against lefties. He is a lefty bat, although he did hit 278 against southpaws last year. But he broke out 14 homers in 108 games, 347 plate appearances. If people really didn't recognize him from last year, he made a name for himself in the World Baseball Classic. I think he can get up to like 8 stolen bases, maybe 8 to 10. I think he can get well over 500 plate appearances, maybe flirt with 200 homers, a double-digit walk rate, 14.7 walk percentage last year, strikeout percentage at 20.5. So maybe his on-base percentage can get back up to 340, which he had last year. I think he can improve as a hitter too. It's a really good lineup as well. I think he's good enough to lead off almost every single day against lefties, but there will be times where maybe he is not leading off and he's down the order. There's a lot of nice pieces in the St. Louis Cardinals order, so I do like him quite a bit as a target there. Another name that I saw on that list is George's boy, Masataka Yoshida. Maybe I'll rattle through. Estrada here at pick 167, second short eligibility for the Giants. I think he's a decent target. Reed Detmer's talked a lot about him already. Paul Sewald, he's going to be the closer for Seattle. Munoz goes ahead of him. And we talked about this, I think, last week with Munoz. He's got nastier stuff. I think he's definitely going to get some saves, but he's probably better suited in like a high leverage situation. I think Sewald will lead the team in saves. There's going to be a lot of wins there for Seattle this season. I think he's a really good target. I don't like to target closers early outside of a rotisserie league, and a head-to-head, I won't do it. But I think he makes for a really good target in those head-to-head formats. Saves is one category in a head-to-head format. In a rotisserie league, you can't be, you got to be at least middle of the pack in saves or you just won't win. So you're going to want to attack the closer position early, get yourself a top 5, top 10, and then a couple pieces in around that range. Sorry, George, I ramble so much that I really need you to kind of keep it up for a second so I can get through. You're a goat. I love you. Eugenio Suarez, another guy too, just like Chapman, a mid to late round third baseman that can get you 25, 30 homers. I think I'd rather Chapman. Brian Hayes is a guy that actually could be a difference maker for some people, right? As a prospect last year, a couple of years ago, as a hot prospect that a lot of people wanted a piece of in fantasy, and he was kind of underwhelming. But last year, 7 homers and 20 stolen bases. He could probably have 30 combined homers and stolen bases, hit 260 potentially. He could be a difference maker. Wouldn't be surprised. Chris Bassett's going to give you the innings. Not a huge strikeout pitcher, but he is going to, the ratios should be fine. He's a decent target there. And for Yoshida, George, I think he's going to be a good player for you guys. He really did. So I didn't know a lot about him, of course. I haven't seen a lot of him. Of his game, but in the World Baseball Classic, I thought he was great. It sounds like he's going to hit cleanup for the Boston Red Sox. I really like Tristan Casas, leading off. More on him in the next block in that one spot. He got Devers and then Justin Turner and then Yoshida here. I think he's going to have like good ratios. I don't know how many homers he's going to have. I don't know if he's going to have many more than 20, but he showed me a couple things in the World Baseball Classic. There was one homer he had off big league pitching where he went down on one knee and it was like deep to right. Like that showed me that he could hit big league pitching and he could add a couple bombs. It's a decent lineup. It's not as good as in years past, but still going to score some runs. It's a good ballpark. It's a good division for him as well. Here I am talking up the Red Sox and he just busts out that. That's fantastic. That's the look when I see the Angels Twitter handle tweet that they have a scary rotation. They have a scary rotation this year. Shohei is good. This is it right here. Don't mess around with the scare rotation stuff. It's a decent rotation. It's not scary. Nobody's scared of that rotation after Shohei Ohtani. I like Anderson. He's going to regress, but I do like Tyler Anderson. I like Patrick Sandoval. I do not like Suarez as a 5. Come on, give your head a shake with the scare rotation when your 5 is like a guy that's going to be bumped out of the rotation a little bit. I do want to give some love to Reed Detmers. I'll save it. I'll do it in the next block again. I think I've given enough love to him, but that is one guy that I really do like inside the rotation. He is rising up draft boards. So talk about him and some undervalued hitters to target in your drafts coming up. If you have a draft tonight, we're going to help you out there. Back in a couple.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win.
Still laughing at George in the break here. Can we bring up the hitters? Some of these are undervalued. Some are not undervalued. Some are just targets of mine. I just wanted to share a list with you guys like I did with the pitching. So up at the top, I mean, Austin Riley, not undervalued, but third base position, I don't really love it. I think Riley is just a complete stud, and I love the Braves lineup. George put him on the So Rare card, so proceed with caution. I'm just kidding. There's no jinxes on that So Rare card. No chance. Austin Riley's got a lot of pop. Love the lineup. The second base position is so weak. So I listed a couple guys here, like Jazz Chisholm has really jumped up draft boards because of the Jose Altuve injury, but the second base position really is so weak. He doesn't have outfield eligibility yet, but he will get it. He's just got a ton of speed and along with power. The lineup is improved. Don't love the ballpark, but it is slightly improved with Luis Arraez there, potentially leading off. If it's not him, maybe it's Jazz. But again, second base position, super, super weak. I still think that there is value there for Jazz. And I also put Jimenez on the board as well, Andreas, because, you know, he's a guy that can give you, he's going pretty, you know, not late, but later, like average pick 70, later than Jazz. If you don't get Jazz, like, what are you doing at the second base position? I don't think you want to punt it altogether. I think you do want to attack it. And Jimenez can give you like, maybe 30 combined homers and stolen bases. Like, it's not too bad. So I just put a couple second basemen on there. Randy Arozarena, like, he's a guy that I certainly like, and I would rather have Luis Robert. These guys are kind of all bunched in together. Arozarena, Varsho, and Luis Robert. Varsho's got that catcher eligibility. I like a lefty bat inside the Jays lineup. I think he can get to 25 homers. He can steal you a couple bags as well. And, you know, at times he's going to be hitting behind all those big guys, right? And most of the year he should be anyways, behind Vlad and Bo and Springer. Opportunity to drive in a lot of runs. Great ballpark. I really like, I think Dalton's going to have a great season for the Jays. Love that pickup. They really needed a southpaw bat in that lineup. Brendan Belt's, not on this list, but I think he's a decent target late. I think he's already, dealing with something. But Luis Robert for me is like, I'm a sucker for him. I know I've talked about him a lot over the past couple of years, given some long shots, MVP odds. I'll probably go down the road again with him as well. We haven't seen, full playing time from Luis Robert yet, but he has just shown us what he can do. I think he's got like 25, 30 home run potential. I think he can flirt with 20 stolen bases. I think he can give you a good 280 average. It's just like a really not undervalued by any reason, but I think he's a really good target. Taylor Ward as well. He was a free agent waiver wire darling last year for a lot of us. He helped me win some championships and a lot of people out there as well. 23 homers and 5 stolen bases, hit 281. I think he's more of a 265, maybe 270 hitter, but I think he can get up to 20 homers again, maybe flirt with 10 stolen bases. He's going to lead off for the Halos. So if he's leading off for the Angels and Ohtani and Trout is healthy, Rendon's had a fantastic spring. Take it with a grain of salt. I think he's a good dart throw at the end of your draft for a third baseman. I don't have him on the list. I thought about it, but I didn't want to be that guy. But the Angels lineup, I mean, should be good this season. There's no question about their offense. It's about their staff and their bullpen. But Taylor Ward leading off for the Halos, there's value there. Jeremy Pena, I really just don't understand it. He's moving up draft boards now because Altuve is out and he's going to lead off, but I don't even care. Like when Altuve is back and the lineup is loaded and if he's hitting down the order, I just don't care. He's that good of a player. I mean, his defense is terrific. He's got speed. As a rookie, 22 homers, 11 stolen bases, won the ALCS MVP, World Series MVP. He's just a fantastic hitter, and I'm just shocked where he's going in drafts. Sean Murphy mentioned Cal in the last block. I think both of those catchers going around the same parts of draft. I think they're both solid. Mentioned Nootbaar, break me off a piece of that Nootbaar in the last block. I like Cassis. I like Cassis a lot, actually. George, I think you're going to be pretty happy with Tristan Cassis. He's got some pop. He'll lead off here for the Red Sox. Maybe, I think, again, could flirt with 80 runs at the leadoff position. Outside pick 150, even deeper than that in Yahoo leagues. Tovar is I think for the rotisserie players out there, he's probably going to hit in like the 9 spot, but he get you a little bit of power and some speed. Some projections for him, just going to rattle off quickly, 14, 15 stolen bases with like 15, 16 home runs at Coors, right? There's going to be some growing pains with him. The average, maybe 260, 270. I think he can creep up to that number. I mean, throughout the minors, because of the speed, he had some really good campaigns hitting 300 and whatnot, but he's a guy that I think will, it's like maybe slow start for him, right? We didn't see a whole lot from him last year, just 9 games, 35 plate appearances. So I would just be cautious, just hang on, right? You're not going to win your fantasy baseball championship in the first month, right? But that's a guy that I think you're really going to like. Volpe, we talked about last week as a guy at 10-1 we have in the tracker to win the AL Rookie of the Year. Now he's made the squad and that 10-1 number is gone, but that's another guy that's got tremendous power and speed. Like him a lot, quite a bit. So if you can get him in your drafts, especially rotisserie leagues, is a guy that I think will hit in the 9 spot. But if he hits really well to start the season, we could see him in the leadoff spot potentially. So have him kind of starred, especially in a rotisserie league. I think he can get to like 20, 25 stolen bases, maybe 15 homers. What a fantastic spring from him. A couple other rookies there, like Jung is on the board. I took off Miguel Vargas for the Dodgers, but I do like him as like a nice little pick too. Playing time should be there for him with the Dodgers. Laureano could get traded. I think he's just a good value. Can give you some speed and some pop. I know it's because Oakland, that's why he goes, super late. Fraley's another guy, great spring. He's got some pop. Manuel Margot, going pretty late. Outfielder's got some pop in his bat and also some stolen base potential. And then 2 dart throws towards the end. Jurickson Profar, he's going to lead off for the Rockies, right? Say what you want about Profar. He's never going to live up to the expectations, but at Coors, leadoff guy, basically free. And then Derek Hall, I think he's going to have first base eligibility with Rhys Hoskins done for the season. They got to pencil in a roster resources, the cleanup guy for the Phillies. Of course, that won't be the case when Bryce Harper comes, but he's free in drafts and he's got some pop in his bat as well. Quick break and NHL props right on Mean Streets. Back in a couple.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB. Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
Welcome back in. 6 games on the ice tonight in the NHL. Just found out that Tage Thompson is questionable to play. We have him here for over 3.5 shots this evening. So just keep an eye on him. He may be a little bit risky if he does suit up. I know he was a game time decision the other day and he did suit up, but he only had 2 shots. So maybe we have to be a little cautious with that play. If he doesn't play, I like Alex Tuch anyways. You see on the bottom, Jack Hughes and Alex Tuch a little bit too juiced to take his singles. Both of those guys together at DraftKings plus 185. Valeri Nichushkin and Clayton Keller, both of those guys a little bit too juiced to take his singles together over at DraftKings plus 167. Man, Keller has just been one of the better players in the NHL since the calendar turned to 2023. Nichushkin up on that top line. Also have him for an assist tonight up against the Ducks at plus 102, playing with McKinnon and playing with Mikko Rantanen. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, our free play of the day, 13 shots in his last 3 games. He played Arizona last week. He gets the Coyotes again tonight. He had 4 shots in that game. I like him at plus 110, over 2.5 shots. Jared McCann and Joel Eriksson Ek are playing each other. McCann, it's a tougher matchup against Minnesota, but minus 112, I'm not going to turn that down for a guy who's been pretty much automatic over the last 5 weeks. And Joel Eriksson Ek down the middle of the ice, over 2.5 shots at minus 130. How about Raphael Harvey-Pinard, ladies and gentlemen? Had a hat trick in his last game, plus 135. The Habs and the Sabres have a goal total of 7. The Sabres have the highest goals against average per 60 at 5-5 over the last 2 months of the season. The Habs are inside the top 5 as well. I think we could see a lot of offense there, but it's all about Nick Suzuki. Suzuki's got 4 multi-point games in a row. He had 4 points the other night. He's the guy that's been setting up Harvey-Pinard. So I like Pinard for a point at plus 135. I think he could hit the back of the net. I also like Hoffman as well to have a point. He is plus money. Good luck on the ice. We'll talk to you more. Cheers.